After having come out, not to my parents, just come out in the gay world, I know my parents noticed a shift in my activities, a shift in my friendships. These are two very good, kind, loving people who are devoted to their religion and devoted to their children. So you really don't want to ask too many questions in that situation, because maybe they're starting to get an inkling about that I might be gay, but probably wouldn't even discuss it with themselves. There came a time when I was coming home from college for the weekend, and I think I took a bus home, and my dad picked me up at the bus station. And on the way home, he told me about a telephone call he had gotten at work. And a gentleman who did not identify himself had said, I just want you to know that your son is being seen around town with known homosexuals, and you should do something about this before they turn him into one. So I was taken aback a little bit, but I said, immediately, that, well, Dad, I am a known homosexual myself. I'm gay, and I know that I'm gay, and he didn't seem shocked by this information, and he jumped in immediately and said, I love you, and your mother and I love you, and we're there for you. We don't really understand how this happened, so when we got home, we sat down with my mother too, and because obviously she was privy to this information as well, and the three of us sat down and discussed it. I didn't give them many details at all, but that I'm gay. I'm happy being gay. This is who I am, and so their initial response was to send me to a therapist, and I went for one visit. It was a Catholic therapist too, and he actually told my parents that he thought I was quite well adjusted, and that they probably shouldn't worry too much about me, which was a blessing. From that point on, it was, their reaction, I think, was more containment. And that's the way it stayed for a very long time. I would bring friends home, from college, or after I moved away out of Louisville, I'd bring boyfriends home. They accepted everyone that I ever brought through the front door. They were kind, gracious, never wanted to know what the relationship was, really. I'm sure they must have known. They loved all these guys that I brought home. I think it probably made them happy, that I did have people in my life. But of course, they wouldn't ask questions. It stayed that way for close to 20 years, probably, until my partner, I got into a long-term relationship, and of course, I would bring him home all the time, and they knew his name was Chase, and they knew him very well. And about 5 years into the relationship, he was diagnosed with HIV and full-blown AIDS all at the same time. And I knew this was a point where, okay, we have to get real with each other now. So I sat down and wrote a very long letter to them. I remember the first line was, "Oh my God, a letter from Mikey, what's wrong?" And so I said, "Nothing's wrong, really. But I have things that I need to tell you about." The phone rings, and they're both on. One's on one extension, one's on the other, and they were so supportive. They asked questions, actually, because they weren't prone to asking questions, and they asked questions about Chase. How is he doing? They responded very well. Again, these are two very kind, loving people, and they had grown also, and my father as well too. I mean, it opened the door. He was never really that comfortable talking about it, but one time when I came home on a weekend, and I was taking him to work. I don't remember what triggered the conversation, but all of a sudden he said, I want you to understand. He said, a parent can't love one child more than another. But he said, I want you to understand that I know that you've had a more difficult row to hoe than most people. And he said, I want you to know how proud I am of you for how you've lived your life. And I realized later that I could have probably opened up the dialogue much earlier than I had. But you just don't know these things. And as long as things were going really well between us, I just didn't feel a need I think it would be important to understand your parents first, because not everyone probably can be very upfront with their parents, and to understand that there might be consequences, negative consequences. It did bother me that there was so much in my life that I didn't share with them, and I realized that I probably could have much earlier than I did. So I would say sooner rather than later is what I would tell most people who are thinking about coming out to their parents.